I don't care what happens in the playoffs, Jamal Murray has put the world on notice. He's one of the smoothest players in the league and is extremely crafty in everything from the pick and roll to finishing around the bucket. I'll break down his whole playoff performance so far under the microscope. So first, let's talk about his pick and roll game. You'll notice that a lot of his pick and rolls are very high up. And this is because high pick and rolls are a really good way to get him a running start and force the big man to come out further than he's comfortable with. If that hedge man doesn't come out, then it's just a simple pull-up. The only problem here is that because it's so far out, defenders have that option to go under the screen. So two of the most common options he'll use when that defender decides to go under is one, reusing the screen, so that big man will roll. And as he does, he obstructs the defender's path.
Murray, quick release on the three.
He'll also use speed changes to throw off their closeout timing and direction. And this isn't just when the defender goes under. This change of speed is a trend that you'll notice when you watch Murray come off of screens. Many younger players will attack at 100% speed after coming off and just try to escape that defender. But Murray will actually slow down, allowing that defender to close on him. But look what happens. That defender is somewhat out of control. His momentum is coming towards Murray. That's an advantage. And a lot of the time, especially as he's dribbling with this slow pace, he'll use this pound to sort of stun the defense. He can also really protect the ball with this pound as he crosses that foot over, so now his body is in between the defender and the ball.
He's certainly a part of them getting here.
He's also been playing against over-aggressive defenders all playoffs long, but he matches this physicality and sets up screens very well without letting that defender sneak through. And now that they have to trail behind him, he has much more separation from them to work with. Or he can just come off and knock it down with a hop directly off of that screen. Most times, simple is best. Conserve energy, take the easiest shot that you get. And when you're playing against a set defense with Kawhi, PG, Montrezl Harrell, and more, there's only so much that you can do off of that screen. So one way Denver has kind of countered this is by setting a lot of what we call drag screens, which are basically transition screens to get him going downhill before the defense is set. Same thing here against the Jazz. Bigs like Gobert are generally coached to sprint to the paint. So by setting this screen early, he's not able to make it out in time. Again, here the defense isn't set yet, so they're confused, and Murray gets an easy bucket. And finally, he's always ready for that split to open up, even if it's not that typical split coming off the screen. And notice that he's watching that hedge defender before he comes off the screen. Yes, it's instinct, but it's also important to have a picture of what he's doing before you come off.
Denver by 9 with the ball. 39 points for Murray.
Murray has also been knocking down a good amount of close jump shots, which I'm finding to be more and more valuable. This is kind of that fourth level that I talk about, where we get a bit deeper than a mid-range, but not to the basket either. So whether it's a turnaround, drawing a foul and hanging in the air for an and one, or a pump fake into a step through or pivot, Murray has been killing this 10 to 15 foot range with his jumpers.
Murray Jokic, little two-man game. Murray gets it the ball.
Alright, let's talk quickly about finishing. So one thing you'll notice about Murray's finishing at the rim is how he slows down before the finish many times. Especially when attacking hard downhill, watch that slight pump on the break once he gets into that open court, allowing him to 1, be in more control as he braces for the contest, and 2, have more time to read that shot blocker, allowing him to do stuff like this. Also, I'd say that Murray jumps from further out than most players, allowing his extension to do the job. And many shot blockers aren't used to smaller guards jumping out from this far, so it's hard for them to time. But this means we have to be comfortable jumping more horizontally, accelerating through that jump, which is just another consideration we have to take into account when training. And finally, when you're able to extend out, put it high off the glass, reverse it, and be creative with that left hand, it opens up so much, trust me. Lastly, I'll talk about a few techniques he's using in his ISO game. So especially once he gets a big man on him, Murray will actually move backwards to bring that big out towards him. Now look what happens. Their momentum is coming away from the bucket, and he takes advantage. And if they don't gravitate towards him enough, he'll just shoot it and knock it down. You'll see him do this a lot, even if it's just a slight step or two back before exploding out. It makes it much easier to blow by than attacking a set defender. And what this short step backwards will also help with is getting him into these low acceleration positions. By placing his foot back in that negative step and then repositioning that next one, he's in a really good shin angle and forward lean to accelerate from. Even on this play with Kawhi, he sees Kawhi lunge out, and now he has that advantage. And speaking of that acceleration, he's very aggressive in taking both feet off the ground before exploding. Not only does this engage the stress shortening cycle to make that acceleration that much more explosive, but it also allows him freedom to go either way, since both feet are in the air.
Under a minute in the second quarter, step back three.
Finally, he loves using this hard between the legs to set up a lot of moves, so he can explode out of it.
Game 4, 40 tonight. Murray.
He can pretty simply counter it back. He can get into a little misdirection move into a jumper. He can pull it back into a speed change, and a lot more. So these are just a few techniques he's using. At some point I'll do a full breakdown, but hopefully you guys learned something from this video. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at ByAnyMeansBasketball for a lot more.